Oh. There we go. There we go. Boom. Magical.
Do I need to hold my phone up?
Now you can throw it on here. All right.
Do I need to make it lean this a little bit?
Good to go. Let me just get There we are. No. All right, we can't work in the same room, so we're just going to share the screen much better, and ultimately you can hear us much better as well. Yeah, everyone can watch it. We're good. Awesome. So thank you for joining us today. We have a super exciting kind of lineup of wine. We've been working with a bunch of the local accounts. We just had an incredible dinner, a bit of a double dinner from Nick and Sam's and Oishi in Dallas. Their SMU location recently opened and is helmed by the amazing Brian Hume. And so super excited to get some Peck and Duck going. I'm actually going to leave the first piece to Chad. We're going to go over a bunch of incredible wine today. We have a bit of an exciting lineup and leave plenty of opportunity for you guys to ask questions. And we'll just chat about some wine. So go ahead and introduce yourself and I'll go get the comments set up.
Cool. I brought us chairs.
Awesome. Thank you.
But I'm going to push yours a little farther away so that we can social distance.
Yes.
Hey everybody, this is so weird for me. I've ever gone live ever. So bear with me. I'm Chad. I'm with Champagne Lanson. I'm based here in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. And we are coming to you from Dallas, Texas, from Brooks Place. It's a shame you can't see the view. It's pretty nice, overlooking the uptown area, Turtle Creek kind of. Anyway, I work for Champagne Lanson for the winery. I'm based here in Texas, and yeah, so we're going to taste two wines for you, and we kind of partnered with some accounts that are currently working with some of the wines. I have four of our wines, what I call our core four. Our Black Label, which is our house non-vintage fruit, our rosé. We'll taste these two. Then I have our single vineyard non-vintage organic champagne, which is pretty cool. The only one, as far as we know, on the market. Biodynamically farmed, has been for about 16 years. And then our white label, which is a dry sec. So it's on the sweeter side and a little bit extra sugar added there. Great with spicy food like Asian food and spicy fried chicken. So I know some people went out and bought the wines and are tasting along with us. So thank you very much for that. And before we really get started, I wanted to say, thank you all for doing this. I know we're all kind of going a little stir crazy. Some of us are stuck at home and bored out of our minds. And some of you guys are out there on the front lines working like crazy in retail and doing to-go orders at restaurants, and you're putting yourself literally in harm's way between yourselves and the virus and the rest of the public. And just thank you so much for everything that you do. I can't imagine what it's like. I've been watching a lot of Netflix and Amazon Prime and things like that, and trying to donate to the GoFundMes that I can and all that kind of stuff. But I haven't been doing much. You guys are actually out there putting yourselves in harm's way. Thank you so much for all that you do. I think Brooke is moving the camera a little bit. Hi. So the first wine that we're tasting from Champagne Lanson is our Black Label. So we call it Black Label. This has been around since 1947. We will always have something that we call Black Label. This is our house non-vintage brut. We were founded in 1760, which makes us not the oldest champagne house, but we're the oldest family-owned champagne house. We like to say we make champagne in the original or classic style, meaning we don't do malolactic fermentation. We try to avoid that. And we do extended lees aging. So we have a fresh, crisp, fruit-forward style. And you'll see that as the lineup continues if you're tasting along with us at home. We are based in the historic capital of Champaign in the city of Reims, which is 45 minutes northeast of Paris by train. And we're also Pinot Noir dominant in our blend. So this is 50% Pinot Noir, 35 Chardonnay, 15 Meunier, and then we do 4 years on the lees, 10 years of reserve wine. We buy from 100 cru from around Champaign. We try to farm sustainably, so we have a property in the city of Reims, the only vineyard in Reims, a hectare of Chardonnay farmed biodynamically called Clos Lanson that sits above our caves. We have this property in the Marne. It's called Domaine de Malmaison in a village called Vernouillet. That's 16 hectares farmed biodynamically and has been for over a decade. So we're Pinot Noir dominant, 50% Pinot Noir, 35 Chardonnay, 15 Meunier. That's the exact blend of the first wine. 4 years on the lees, 10 years of reserve wine, like I mentioned. We buy from 100 cru from around Champaign, and 50% of that fruit is Premier Cru and Grand Cru. And Brooke's doing something.
Keep going. You're good.
So when you taste this wine, the first thing you will smell, I always get a lot of apple, applesauce, apple juice, oxidized white wine. This is an oxidative white wine, always gives me apple character, tree fruit flavor. There's lemon, there's lemon peel, lemon zest, that yellow apple, a little bit of green apple, maybe a touch of red apple as well. And this is a really fresh, crisp, inviting, great way to start a meal. We like to say we make an aperitif style cuisine. Oxidized white wine. This is an oxidative white wine. Always gives me apple.
You're good.
Sorry, I'm not good at the live thing. So yeah, that's delicious. That's our black label. Brooke, you've had this before, right?
Yeah, I have, and it's always exciting to hear from someone who doesn't drink wine as much. For when we opened the bottle, the first thing my boyfriend mentioned that he was smelling and tasting was apple, and that's that oxidation that Chuck kind of mentioned. That's really unique, I think, to Williamson House style, and also so inviting. To me, this is always what I tend to want to grab when I think about something with the acid and with the crisp, but the bubbles aren't as tight, right? Than we always see sometimes in other champagnes.
Yeah, I mean, so the minimum aging for champagne is like 15 months. We do 4 years, so 48 months. So people ask me a lot of times, like, oh, can I age your champagne? And it's like, well, generally speaking, we do the aging for you. So when you buy it, it's ready to drink. So yeah, this was disgorged about 15 months ago. This was January of 2019. So it's had a little bit of time to really fully integrate with the sugar, the dosage, and everything, and develop into what it is. And I think this is a perfect place for this wine. So yeah, it's like not quite as intense. If you buy some of the like really inexpensive like private label champagnes that for like a big warehouse distributor, or not distributor, warehouse retailer, it's like a private label champagne, for example, it could have like some really intense bubbles because they did the minimum aging, slapped a label on it, put it on a container, sent it across the ocean. Nothing against that. I'm not talking bad about anybody else's wine, but this is a wine that's like, it's ready to drink. It's in a perfect spot. It's ready to go.
Yeah, this is my favorite food-friendly champagne for sure. I'm good to go.
Actually, your sink's right there. I'm going to dump that out because we're going to move on to the rosé. Or actually, you want to do one of the Penfolds and we'll come back to the rosé?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So super, super excited to be running this. Next week, I do want to mention that we will be chatting about our Bin 51 Eden Valley Riesling. We don't make a lot of it. It just came back into the Texas market, and we'll be talking about it next week. But today, I really wanted to go over my favorite happy surprise from working with Penfolds. If you're not familiar with the weekly wind down and what we do here today, I have been chatting about several of the Penfolds brands, Penfolds wines rather, each week. And this week I'm talking about the Bin 311 Chardonnay, 100% Chardonnay from South Australia. What makes this wine particularly unique is we use French oak, a lot of new oak actually. What is strange for us is that we use a lot of American oak actually through our wines, so that makes our 311 a little bit unique. We pull from three kind of major regions, so Tumbarumba, the Adelaide Hills, and what's been the most surprising, I think, for our winemakers, Tasmania. What's amazing about Tasmania is the soils are millions of years old, which is very similar to a very famous Chardonnay region called Chablis in France. And so the minerality is really beautiful in this wine. It has that prehistoric kind of soil that makes the architecture for Chablis as unique as it is. With that and the French oak, cool climate Chardonnay, really beautiful, great with food. So this is kind of where we generally start our wine dinners, particularly being really well known for red wine. It was a lot of fun to work with Lanson on this, just because Lanson being a sparkling wine, champagne, of course, the king, it's always the one thing that I always feel like I can use more of working with, particularly red wine house. So this is a really beautiful way to start any meal. This is actually by the glass at Georgie in Dallas, so we're really proud of that. Curtis Stone is, of course, an Australian chef, so super exciting to see the wine come from there. Yeah.
I guess we should probably thank our partners today. We partnered with Nick and Sam's here in Dallas. They have my rosé, and they have some of your wine as well.
Yep. 389 Grange. They bring the 407 in our WT St. Henri. So Nick and Sam's has a fair amount of our lineup.
Oishi. We've done sushi and some Peking duck and stuff from them. We have some steaks from Nick and Sam's, and Oishi has the rosé as well. And then Veritas in Uptown, kind of partner on the Near East Side, kind of partnered with us as well. They've got the black label and half bottles, and they've got I think they've brought in the green label before and the rosé as well. And they brought in some of your wines, I think, as well.
Yep.
And there's a lot of places around town in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area as well. Down in Houston, San Antonio, Austin, all over the state of Texas, even West Texas, El Paso, Marfa. I don't know if anybody's actually joining us from those areas, but if you are, welcome. And then I cover Texas and Florida. There's a lot of places in Florida as well. We have National by the Glass with the rosé with Nobu. Nobu in Miami is a good partner with us. Nobu in Dallas is a good partner with us. Want to just kind of shout out to a lot of the places who have our wines out there. Central Market in Texas is a good partner for us. Specs is a good partner. Put a Cork in it in Fort Worth. I'm gonna forget people, and I'm sorry if I don't mention you. Le Cave in Dallas in the design district. There's a lot of places in Florida as well. We have National by the Glass. There are a lot of great partners, and thank you guys so much. Try to mention you guys on Instagram and encourage people to go out and buy some of the wines from you guys before today or after. So. Yeah. I love this Chardonnay, by the way. Yeah. It's amazing.
Awesome. Thanks. I think this is the biggest surprise. We do something called Luxapalooza every year in Luxicon, which is basically a Treasury exclusive opportunity for us to share the wines portfolio wide. And Jillian Ballance, our master sommelier, loves to show this wine and kind of tell nobody what it is. She usually works with other advanced or master sommeliers through the Court of Master Sommeliers, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. And it's the most exciting to me to see everybody mistake this wine for somewhere else, because it is just super surprising. And if you've had Chardonnay from the Margaret River, which I drink a lot of Chardonnay from Margaret River, totally different and really, really cool to see the oak with the integration of the minerality and the limestone soil. I love that.
I love Chardonnay, and it's a great example of Chardonnay.
Yeah, awesome. Cheers, by the way. Cheers everyone.
Virtual Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Social distancing.
Christina, Brian, we have John on, my mom, Troy. I saw Josh hop in. Hey, my hair looks real rough right now for you to be here. Tony, I see you. We will drop you some champagne, social distancing next door in a little bit. So. Oh, look. Hey, Dave. What's going on? Dylan, you should jump in on the live. You know these wines better than I do. Oh, he said, hi, let's clock in.
One of your coworkers?
Dylan Proctor?
Oh,
do you know
Dylan.
him?
Oh. I wish I could see him.
Hey, Decker, what's going on?
Oh, there he is. What's up, Dean?
10 minutes. I see you guys rocking Lansone and Little Pennies, yeah?
Cheers,
Yeah,
man.
what's up,
Good to see
baby?
you.
I dig it. Yeah, man. I've always been a big fan of Lansone, the Bajos, man, great family. So I know you guys,
Yeah.
I know Chad's going to drop some dope knowledge, obviously, in Pennies, man. 176 years old now. I mean, geez. So, yeah, you guys have fun. Drop some knowledge. I'll listen for a couple minutes, obviously, but I've got to hop on my own little Fantasca Zoom here in about 5 minutes just to prep for.
Is that a Fantasca neon behind you? That's
Yeah,
flashing?
Dylan, let's share with everyone where you're at and what you're up to.
Yeah, look, I'm in Dylan's Den right now at historic downtown St. Helena, a beautiful building that's been here, since the 1880s or whatever, and I've got a beautiful little space where I'll be offering an elevated upscale kind of tasting with the old world meets Fantasca. So we're gonna have a lot of fun once all of this lifts. But hey, if you guys don't mind, I just wanna, only because the screen is split, I wanna see what Chad, can you hold your Lansones up?
There, can you see?
Yeah. Hey Chad, you might not know this, man, but I did a little TV show with my buddy Prentice a few years ago. We tasted the entire line of Lansones.
Oh.
Bench 51 Eden Valley. Hold on, we went too fast. Yeah, 311. Of course, bench 407 and a little Grange, yellow bench 95. So yeah, love what you guys are doing. So sorry I can't stay, but stoked. If you save it to your feed, man, I'm stoked to hear, Chad, what your take on Lansone and their beautiful property and all their kind of World War II history and obviously, obviously, I hope that you touch on a little bit of Max Schubert's kind of journey through World War II and how he started at Penfolds in 1931 at the age of 16 and just kind of go through all that stuff. And yeah, so appreciate you guys for letting me hop on. So y'all have fun.
Yeah, thanks, D. Let's go over that 169. We have a couple bottles left in Texas. Maybe we'll feature that in the next week or so. Hop on.
Yeah, Ben 169, Cru Noir, Block 9 and Block 10, Terra Rosa Soil, first made in 73, was a part of the 62 Ben 68, obviously 9 years prior, but it became its own wine. So yeah, a lot of dope history on the 169. So yeah.
Cool.
Hey, thank you, Dylan, for coming on. Good to see you. Good talking.
Great seeing y'all.
So, were they able to see that on this screen as well?
No.
No. Oh, wow.
You guys, if you missed that on Facebook, I am so sorry. We actually just had a bit of a wine legend. He is my counterpart in many ways. He was our last kind of brand ambassador for the U.S. before my program relaunched. So, huge part of what I do and a great friend. Texas native. He's from Dallas, baby. So really cool to have him. Definitely check out on Instagram. That's the Instagram exclusive.
Yeah, we had Dylan Proctor join us for a second, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, awesome.
So that was only on Instagram, huh?
Yeah, just on Instagram.
Cool.
Yeah, he is a producer on that new movie Netflix Uncorked, where actually our Bin 389 and our Bin 28 was shouted out. So
cool.
So much Penfolds love and super, super excited. Yeah. Wine's a small world, y'all.
So I think we should probably skip ahead to the Lansone Rosé. I don't know what Brooke's doing with the.
You're good. Just ignore me.
Okay. She says ignore her. So Lanson Rosé might be one of the easier ones to find in the Dallas area because I love it. I drink this. I tell people I drink this every day. Just kind of accurate. If I'm out showing the wine, I actually haven't been. If anyone from the winery is watching, I have not been drinking samples every single day. I've been well behaved. But when I'm out in the market showing this lineup of 4 wines, the Rosé is the one that always jumps out to me. It's beautiful. Basically, the only difference between the Black Label, our classic non-vintage House Brut, and the Rosé is the addition of about 3% still red wine, Côte de Champenois. A lot of it comes from Village of Bouzy, so we're adding, Bouzy Rouge here, Pinot Noir, still Pinot Noir from some of the best vineyards. Keep in mind that 50% of our fruit is Premier Cru and Grand Cru. We add that in. It gives it that pale color. I don't know if you can see here, but it's just a pale salmon color. It lifts the fruit, gives it a little bit more body, a little bit more weight, and is incredibly refreshing. I could drink this all day. We had a little bit of steak from Nick and Sam's, and Rosé Champagne and steak is one of my favorite classic, not classic, but for me a classic secret little pairings that you can do. Rosé Champagne and steak's delicious. So those are our first 2, and the same amount of time on lees. 4 years on the lees, 8 grams dosage here. I can't really see. I'm sorry if there are any questions.
We'll get to it. I'll let you know.
Feel free, if you have any questions, reach out to me directly. My Instagram should be there, Chad Stir the Machine, and Chad Hose on Facebook. If you have any questions about these, I want to also give a shout out to my Texas distributor, which is Serendipity. They do such a great job for us here in Texas. Those guys are out there working really hard, putting themselves in harm's way by being out in retail. Everybody's working really hard in retail. Also, my Florida distributor is Progress Wine Group, which is affiliated in Texas with Victory, and they're making a big name for themselves around the country, and they're doing a great job as well. We have some great placements in Florida as well. If you're in Florida and you're looking for a place to buy these, please reach out and let me know. If you're in another state and you don't know who your distributor is for Lanson, please reach out to me. I can find that out and let you know. If you are in another state and you're not in the trade and you're just looking for a place to buy Lanson, please let me know, and I will reach out to my colleagues around the country and I'll find out and I'll let you know where you can buy that local to you.
While we're shouting people out, I see Derek Decker. Hey guys. And Miss Leanne Rhymes, Mrs. Leanne Rhymes, thanks for hopping in. I feel like we're legends on legends, a little bit of country,
Leanne
a little
Rhymes?
bit of Dallas. Yeah, she's here.
Oh,
So
wow.
hi.
I can listen to her music.
Yeah, amen. Super talented. Hi. Yeah, amazing. It's super exciting to see a bunch of people here drinking wine. And let us know what you're drinking in the comments. If you are having a glass of Penfolds or Lanson or something else, shout it out.
Yeah.
We don't discriminate. Cool.
So after this, I guess I'll turn it over to you. I briefly mentioned we do have a single vineyard, non-vintage, organic, lower dosage, biodynamically farmed. This is called our Green Label or organic. We love this, and we're really going to focus on this month with International Earth Day, and obviously, like, the world stopped spinning, and a lot of things got canceled. You would have seen me showing this out a lot this month, and this is available for special order at a lot of retailers, and it's available from a couple restaurants. I know Albernade's up north in North Dallas has this on their list. And then I mentioned a little bit our white label, our dry sec. So this is our sweeter, not quite the sec level sweetness, but great with spicy food, great with Asian food, spicy fried chicken, things like that. I'll also mention our vintage. We are finishing up with 2005, moving on to 2008, which is a great vintage. We do between 9 and 10 years on the lease on our vintage. So they're always one of the last ones to be released, and those are available. The 05 is still available locally. There's a few cases in Texas, and then we'll be moving into 08. And then, yeah, that's pretty much our lineup. We have a few other things like Clos Lanson, which I mentioned. It's our single vineyard, 1 acre vineyard in the city of Reims, only vineyard in Reims, biodynamically farmed. And then, yeah, in a few years, we might be releasing some Blanc de Blanc and some other fun stuff. But this is really the core of the lineup right here, and this what we focus on, what I show on a regular basis. And Brooke is opening Grange. Okay. All right, we're gonna drink Grange, guys.
Yeah, but Chad, while I'm kind of opening some, I'm actually going to pour a minute. Let's talk a little bit about Boozy Rouge. Chad and I actually had some of the best and our favorite Boozy Rouge with Mr. Drew Hendricks.
My old boss, he's probably not on here because he's a butthead. Drew Hendricks, Master Som, I used to work for him at Republic National or in DC. Big fan of Paul Barra, and I am as well. They're based in Boozy. And we had a little half bottle of their, I can't remember the vintage, but it was a couple years ago. Boozy Rouge, 100% Pinot Noir from the village of Boozy, and it was in a little half champagne bottle. And instead of having a champagne cork or a crown cap, it actually had a cork in it, which is really cool, regular still wine cork. Beautiful. For the money, drinks like really good Premier Cru Burgundy from down there in the Côte d'Or, and for a fraction of the price. So if you ever get a chance to drink Boozy Rouge, there's Côte de Champenois, there's White, which I've never had. I would love to have Côte de Champenois Blanc. And then there's also Rosé de Rissé, if you ever have a chance to drink that. Rosé still wine from the Champagne area. I've had once. It's pretty phenomenal. Of course, I would forget the name right now. Great producer, but down in the bar.
Yeah. And just speaking of, I see Shelby's on. Hey, Woody, also. Speaking of kind of dosage and the way we make champagne, for Shelby, who's ketoing right now, which one has the lowest dosage?
So the two that we're tasting right now have the same amount of dosage, 8 grams per liter. So keep in mind, that's 8 grams per liter. This is a 750 milliliter bottle. So that's less than 8 grams in this bottle. And then for our house, our lowest dosage would be our green label, which is technically an extra brut, but we label it as a brut. That's only 6 grams dosage. And so I think that works out to like 4.5 grams in the whole bottle. When you think about that, 4.5 grams for 5 glasses, that's really not. That's less than a gram of sugar per glass.
Yeah.
Which is way less than Coca-Cola, way less than, a lot of things that you could drink.
Yeah, particularly like even fruit juice and such.
It's my opinion we use beet sugar, as well as a lot of champagne houses, so we're using actual high quality sugar. It's not like
fructose corn syrup.
It's not like Coca-Cola using high fructose corn syrup. We're using real, that would be sucrose, right?
Yes.
Yeah, real sugar in our as our dosage. And the sugar, I'll make a note about dosage. The sugar added to champagne, it's really there for balance. So we add sugar to champagne, kind of like if you've ever had a dry German Riesling that was really young, it's really hard to drink. If you have super high acidity, do the same thing with champagne. You start off with super high acidity in the base wine. Especially with us, we don't do malolactic fermentation. So if you're not familiar with that, that's a conversion of malic acid to lactic acid. So malic acid, think your green Granny Smith apples converting to like lactose acid, like think lactose, like milk and cheese and butter, things like that. So we have that higher acidity. We have to add some sugar. You add that sugar to give the wine balance, just like you would leave sugar in some really high quality German Riesling, again, to give it balance, because without that sugar, you're going to feel like the enamel of your teeth's being ripped off. It's not going to be pleasurable to drink when it's young. So sugar added to champagne is not meant to be, we're not trying to make Coca-Cola. The idea is that we're trying to create something that's balanced. And champagne started off super sweet, and over the years we've slowly kind of made it drier and drier. And right now it's really in vogue to drink low or zero dosage champagnes. And some of those are good if they're coming from a riper base vintage or a riper area like in the South. And some of them, in my opinion, are undrinkable. I'm not going to name names, but the reason why sugar is there in champagne is to give the wine balance and to make it something pleasurable to drink. Because we should all enjoy drinking this stuff. It shouldn't be a chore to drink it, right?
Yeah. And so to talk about that journey, going from very sweet to the more dry styles that we drink in wine today, I think that Penfold's story really lends itself to that continuation. When we were founded 176 years ago, we were making fortified wines, very, very sweet styles of tawny, almost like syrup. And they were medicinal and properties to the doctors. Dr. Christopher Penfold and his wife Mary founded the winery. When you look at the early awards, it's really exciting to see the Mary Penfold's company, actually, as she continued to helm the winemaking part of the business as he practiced medicine. And so it wasn't until almost 100 years later, at the late 30s, when Max Schubert, our first chief winemaker, we had, of course, Mary, our first head of winemaking. And when Max Schubert came, he had fought in World War II, but he came back and he took a tour in the early 40s to Europe. And he went to the fortified areas that were well known, Madeira, Sherry, Porto. And ultimately, when he ended up in France and went to Bordeaux, he discovered these extraordinarily ageable Cabernet blends that Bordeaux is known for. Worked with Monsieur Christian Cruz, a really famous negociant, was at Chateau Lafite, and he said, I'm going to do this for the Australian people. There we are, post-World War II. Yes, Troy, I understand champagne taste right now.
What's that?
He says he has champagne taste on a COVID budget. Lanson's actually a really good value. The black labels, but they're
You'll find it between 40 and 45 on a retail shelf.
Yeah.
So, and I know some of our partners are doing half off wine to go right now. So, there's some good deals to be found out there. And please support your local restaurants. We did today. It's so important. So, and while you're pouring that, and you mentioned World War II, there's a really cool a John Wayne movie called The Longest Day with Robert Mitchum. And if you go back and you look at some scenes, there's one scene in particular with Robert Mitchum where he's holding like a giant, like 9-liter or something of Lanson Black Label. And it doesn't look I don't know if I mentioned that we were founded in 1760. So been around for a minute.
Just about 80 years later, Penfolds was founded. But getting back to that story, when Max Schubert came back, he said, all right, I'm going to make the first growth of Australia. I need more.
Sorry, I want to see this.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Yep. Cool. So what was really awesome, we didn't have any French oak because as post-World War II was kind of getting regulated, France was not exporting anything to the Allies, including Australia, which is a British colony. And ultimately, American oak became what we were known for. We were growing some Cabernet, and actually Penfolds is thought to hold one of the oldest Cabernet vineyards in the world. 150-year-old Cabernet, Block 42. We do sometimes make a single plot wine on exceptional years, but we didn't have enough to really make a commercial wine. And so Shiraz was really the benchmark for what we were making in Australia. And it does always have a little bit of Cabernet in it. This one is 2014 vintage. Grange is actually known to hold that ageability for decades, 50 years. We're still drinking. The first vintage of Grange was 1951, so we're still drinking the 50s. But what's really remarkable, I think, about the newer styles in particular, it's coming to a place where it is very approachable at this age with plenty of time, right?
So back in the day, they used to call this Grange Hermitage, correct?
Mm-hmm. And what we kind of spoke about last week is the representation of varietals or varieties of grapes on wine labels, right? So this is a perfect example. Our 311, it's a Burgundian bottle, right? This lower this lower shouldered style, and it's Chardonnay, which is of course varietal that we know to really thrive and be traditionally from Burgundy. Whereas like our Cabernets, Bordeaux, right? We have that, again, the high shouldered bottle. And we would say things like Claret, which was a little bit lighter in style, Hermitage. We didn't mean to offend any of course, our French inspirations, but really because it was what we considered to be like a Bordeaux style Shiraz-based blend, Hermitage was what we described it as for a long time. And so it's really exciting too, because on our old bottles, you see things. Hermitage is the one that we dropped most recently, over a decade ago at this point. But even going into the mid-1900s, white wines that say Chablis or Claret, Hock is one of my favorite ones. So when you're 176 years old, we have a lot of that old style indicative. Burgundy was a style descriptive.
Champagne in the United States, people making
absolutely
champagne were in Russia.
Right.
Other places around the world where they make something and they call it champagne. And
Yeah.
So.
All right. My mom asks, "Hey, Ellen, Elle.
Hi.
My mom says, how do you choose when you go into a restaurant or even a store right now and you see all these champagnes? How do you go about selecting Lanson ultimately, right?"
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, the thing is, we're considered a Grand Marque, so we're one of the largest or larger, oldest families making champagne. We're family owned. We have been ever since 1760. There are a lot of options out there. We're in great company. There's the oldest champagne house the oldest winery in Champagne would be Gosset. They were founded in the 1600s, and they were making still wine at the time. And then there's Veuve and Moet and Taittinger and some other people who have been around for a long time. There's some really great people out there. There's also some really great growers out there. I'm very pro champagne. I think, drink champagne, and Lanson's not going to be on every label, on every list. Bollinger's not going to be on every list. Buy something that's your price range, that's your with. It's hard to tell from a label what style they're going to be. You don't always know if that's going to be a linear or reductive fruit forward style, or if it's going to be a rich and heavy mallow and oak style. You have to really taste a lot. Unfortunately, that's the problem. When you're in that last moment of deciding something at a restaurant, you need the help of a lot of times a sommelier, which where are they right now? Because we're living in a world where restaurants aren't open for regular business. So when things come back to normal, please take the recommendation of a sommelier. Tell them what you like, tell them what you've had, tell them what you don't like, and let them give you a recommendation. And get to know the wine stewards at your local wine shops, because they can do the same thing. And if you go in and you say, "Hey, I really like Lanson," or "I like Bollinger," or "I like Taittinger," or "I like Veuve," or "I like Moet," give them an idea of where your palate is and what your style is. I hope I can make this joke because we're on Facebook and Instagram, but I always say champagne is like sex and pizza. Even when it's not great, it's still pretty great. So
you can. It's social media. It's good. Rebecca Michael Byington's here. Hey. I feel like Chad and I were together the last time I saw you. Chris, Christina, hey y'all. We miss you, especially the Psalms that are tuning in, y'all. We miss you so much.
Yes,
thanks for everything you've done.
I can't wait to come back and sit in a restaurant and order a bottle of wine based on your recommendation and shoot the breeze with you guys. And hopefully all of your restaurants come back stronger than they were before. So cheers to you.
Yeah. Hey, I just got a question about the best Shiraz blend to go to. So our Bin 389, our Baby Grange, I think is the best value all day. I think that it's also really indicative of what became a well-known Australian blend, right? So we're usually about 50-50 Shiraz Cabernet, always Cabernet dominant, and especially years like 2017 where we actually didn't produce a 707, our Grange level Cabernet. The fruit gets declassified and goes into 407 and 389. So the value is just incredible for it. It's the most collected wine generally in Australia. So the Aussies, when they're drinking their own stuff, that's who they go to, which is always an honor and a privilege to be that wine. And the last part, of course, is that it's aged in our Grange hogshead. So they're a little bit larger than French oak, 300.
The 389 is?
The French oak hogsheads, yeah. They're the second, yeah. And so we use some French oak on wines like the 407, for example. But so with the American oak, our second use from our Grange will be used for 389 also. And what is so special about that is, of course, Grange is our flagship wine. So I'm super excited. I think it's also worth mentioning that with the 389, you get the kind of floral and boysenberry dark fruit, purple fruit that you get from Shiraz, but the menthol, savory, kind of eucalyptus characteristics that we know and love about the Coonawarra Cabernet. So all day, I think that's one of the best Shiraz blends in entirety.
Where are the oldest Syrah and Grenache vines found in the world?
So we at Penfolds are very, very, very lucky in the sense that we have not been struck by this lovely louse that destroyed a lot of the French vineyards and domestic vineyards as well, called phylloxera. And so because those mites never reached our lovely Barossa Valley, Coonawarra as well actually has, of course, Shiraz. We do. We hold many, many, many old vine plots. And actually, while Chad mentioned that, I'll bring you a fun little picture.
Yeah, so, and also, some of these areas have a lot of sand in the soil, and phylloxera doesn't like sand. And so, I know it's a competitor, but there's a really great, right now I can't think of the name of the producer, but they have a high sands Grenache and high sands Syrah, or Shiraz. Well, I think they actually call it Syrah, from South Australia. And we're talking about some serious old vines, like older than Chateauneuf-du-Pape, older than Crozes Hermitage and Saint Joseph. And
vines. We're really lucky also, speaking of the sand, it's a really good point. Basically, the entire central area of Australia, up until where you get to like Adelaide and the outer region, is the brush. The brush is majority sand. So even if phylloxera was to have gotten to the coasts, the sand has really acted as a natural barrier for us. And you see that as well in Chile. So this is the Calimna Vineyards. Vines, look at them. They're woody. These are ancient. So super, super exciting and interesting. We have taken many liberties recently to care for our Block 42 and our Old Vine Shiraz. And the way we do that is making sure that we're actually, when we're trellising, we kind of keep them a little bit shorter to maintain vigor, so that way they can last as long as humanly possible. We don't know exactly how long that they will last, but we're trying to, of course, extend their life as long as possible.
Cool. Yeah, Australia, I will admit, is not a strong point for me. I don't drink a lot of the wines from there. I should drink more. I should study that area more, especially since I may have some exams coming up later this year. But one of the things I know is that if you want to find the oldest Syrah and Grenache vines in the world, you will find them in Australia. And
yeah. So, Chad, I have another fun question that we got in.
Okay.
Are you guys sommeliers?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. So I don't work in a restaurant. I have, and who knows, I may again one day, but as of right now,